Hey guys, it's Michael and we're back with another video. So a lot of things have been happening in MMA recently, and if you think we're going to talk about them, you're absolutely wrong. Are we going to talk Conor McGregor? No. Are we going to talk Holly Holm? Absolutely not. What we're going to do is something kind of interesting. So for anyone who knows me knows that I like basketball. I like basketball a lot. One thing I noticed is that a lot of basketball channels do this thing called reacting to hot basketball takes or hot NBA takes. I think Dom 2K, Rusty Buckets, they do a lot of these videos. And I thought that would be perfect for MMA. So yeah, I am kind of stealing their idea a little bit. I don't care. Well, I care. Like, they're good YouTubers, but I'm stealing it. I'm stealing it. So what I'm going to do is look on hot MMA takes on Reddit, because Reddit is the place for MMA, let's be honest, and see which ones I agree with or disagree with. We're going to take a look at a couple just to get this video to 10 minutes because, you know, that's sweet, sweet money. Let's see. So this person goes first. I think Conor beats every lightweight except Khabib. I think he beats Dustin, Justin, Gaethje, of course, Tony. I see ways those guys can beat Conor, but I just don't see that happening. I also think he beats everyone at 45. Holloway, TKZ, etc, etc, etc. But yeah, I mean, you know what? Honestly, a motivated Conor McGregor, I don't think that's so outlandish that he can't beat those guys. I've always said it that Conor McGregor, he's one of the more accurate punchers in the UFC. I think he's probably the most accurate puncher in the UFC. I think his style gives a lot of guys fits because of his long stance and his movement. And I think that's the problem with when he faces wrestlers and where wrestlers run into trouble is that Conor McGregor has such great movement, right? And I'll say it till cows come home. Movement is your first line of takedown defense. So yeah, I don't think that's a bad MMA take. I don't think that's a hot MMA take. Moving on. Oh, here's one. Okay. The sport of MMA is far less popular to the general public than most fans seem to think. Yes and no. Yes and no. I would say that, like, it's difficult to explain, but I would say that depending on where you are, that is the case. But MMA is pretty big. Like, for example, everyone knows about MMA in my neck of the woods, which is obviously Toronto, but not everyone is a fan or watches it seriously. So I think if the answer is there are far less hardcore MMA fans, I'd agree, but MMA fans, people will watch on a Saturday night, it's pretty big. It depends on where you're going, I guess. Maybe this person is from an area where it's not really a thing. Okay, so this is a real good one. This person says, and I quote, "My best friend unironically said that Henry Cejudo would beat Derek Lewis in a matchup because Lewis can't wrestle and wouldn't know what to do once he's on the ground." This might be the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So, okay, first of all, Derek Lewis is a bad grappler in relative to other heavyweight grapplers. But he's not a bad grappler in relative to probably even like your regular blue belt on the street. Like, he does things okay. It's just that he does have an over-reliance on strength, of course. And if he faces, you get any blue belt in there with a black belt, what typically happens is one of two things happen. If they're an offensive technician blue belt, they usually try something, fail at it, and then get tapped out. Or you get what Derek Lewis is, which is he's a good defender of a submission. So he just kind of defends the submission until the inevitable happens, right? And I don't think that should be held against him when he's facing other heavyweight grapplers. And by the way, he's only had one submission loss in his career. So to say that all of a sudden Henry Cejudo is just going to take him down from pillar to post is ridiculous. That's stupid. It's so outlandish. That person with that temerity to say that is, I don't know. Stitch Duran was actually Dana's friend. Oh man, dude, that's the greatest meme ever created. Okay, here we go. Conor's popularity with casual fans mostly stem from his accent. I'll be damned if us Americans don't love a smooth talking Irishman. I don't know if the comparable is Colby Covington, because Colby Covington, I think what draws people in is the fact that he's basically a racist. But I think Conor McGregor as an American, one of the things about Conor McGregor is he's funny. I don't think it's the trash talk. In fact, I think it's the trash talk that really pushes people away. I think it's that he's funny and he talks trash, right? I think you see a lot of guys, and the one parallel between all of them, Dominic Cruz to Daniel Cormier to Derek Lewis, etc., it's not the trash talk, it's the fact that they're interesting. It's not that they talk a lot of trash. It's that they're funny, or they're interesting, or they're fun to hear, or they're fun to look at. Like, it's things like that, right? Okay, this is a good one. I like this. I like this one a lot because it is an interesting question. The game didn't catch up or surpass Ronda Rousey. The women's bantamweight division is still a wasteland of a division outside the handful of strikers, i.e. GDR, Nunes, Holm, Ronda. They could still stomp a majority of the division. Well, I do think, see, this is the thing. I don't think anyone is saying a motivated Ronda Rousey wouldn't be, an Irene Aldana or, a lot of good fighters. I think what people are like a Rocky. I think she'd murder Rocky, right? Just if Ronda Rousey we saw pre-Holly Holm were to face Raquel Pennington, I think it wouldn't be close. But here's the thing I think people are saying is that you lose to Holly Holm, right? And clearly it's you gotta clean up your striking, make a commitment to your grappling, and know what butters your bread. And she didn't do that while the rest of the division was evolving. And now you're seeing Holly Holm struggle. And she could lose to Irene Aldana, and then all of a sudden this thing doesn't look good. But I think what people are trying to say is that she doesn't show the propensity to battle adversity. And in this division nowadays, there's a lot more women who would give her adversity. Right? And there's the catch-up, right? So that, interesting one. I do think it is a little weaker than most people give it credit. I guess credit is the wrong word, but most people actually notice it is weaker. If you look at the rankings, you tend to side-eye it a little bit. I think out of the women, 115 has taken over as the premier division, in my opinion. It's 115, and I guess 135 is after, and then 25, 45. 45 is not really a division. It was built for Cyborg left, and now it's just crumbling. Okay, here's another one. MMA already has great athletes in it. No, not every NBA/NFL player would be a great fighter with training. Look, not every person who's an athlete will grasp the intricacies of MMA. It is a mind sport, but I think what people are saying though is there's a lot of untapped potential, right? If you get a 6'5" guy who has in the NBA displayed unbelievable strength, agility, speed, athletics, cardio, stamina, I already said that was cardio, stamina, and by the way, has the presence of mind to do things on the court, what's to say they won't do that in the octagon if they were given training? I think this is where people really miss the point, is that, not everybody is going to be the best MMA fighter of all time in the NBA, but there's a lot of potential and talent to be had in not just the NBA and NFL. I think soccer has some good athletes who have displayed the propensity to be, cardio freaks. I get it, they're small and they flop a lot, but it's in the context of their sport. Volleyball has some explosive guys and they're tall, so imagine teaching them basic striking. we've seen what height and length can do in MMA, right? We've seen what size can do. We've seen what. I think it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, of course there's great athletes, but there's a lot of untapped potential in the other sports, and we can't be dismissive of that untapped potential. Yeah, that's my, I guess that's my rant. This is a spicy one right here. Nate is a journeyman. You know, it's actually not, I wouldn't say a journeyman, because journeyman implies that Nate sucks. Like, I would say that Nate is a tad above average with a couple upset wins here and there, right? You know, him and his brother, I think Nick obviously had that run in a Strike Force, but Nate has some incredible victories too, and everyone obviously remembers the Conor McGregor, but there's other ones that you need to look at where you're like, wow. And this is, again, a guy who fought for a championship too, so he was a title contender at lightweight. I think where people get upset with Nate though is that Nate will kind of say that he's the best, and it's like, no, you really are just like, in any given year, maybe the 5th best in the division, maybe, you know, and that's not even including the later years where he's definitely been figured out a little bit more. Okay, last one. Tony has always been overrated and might be the 5th best fighter in his. Oh my god. I think here's the problem, right? You know, you have one loss in the UFC, and this is where I think the guy was trying to say about Ronda. You get one loss in the UFC, and all of a sudden people think you're trash and you can't fight. Look, you take a look at Tony Ferguson's record, and take a look at the competition he was beating before leading up to Gaethje, and you go say that. It's not, this isn't a discussion. And the thing about Tony too is that he has a very, this guy goes on to say that, you know, his best one was against RDA, who could barely make 155. RDA was the 155-pound champion. He was a lightweight champion. So to now then just turn around and be like, oh yeah, he struggled. He could barely make it. Is stupid. He beat Pettis pretty handedly, aside from Pettis hitting him with one punch. Okay. Lee, he did struggle against, but I think the thing about Kevin Lee is that when Kevin Lee has the right training and his mind's in it, he's very good. Lando Venata just has a style that gets people. Like, it's one of those things where Tony, and he took that fight on short notice, right? It's one of those things where Tony has a style where if he's facing somebody who he hasn't adequately prepared for, that's where he runs into trouble, right? Also, we have to keep in mind against Pettis, he came back in literally half the time you're supposed to come back for an ACL tear. And that's being like at the absolute earliest. Every doctor will tell you that. At the absolute earliest, every doctor will tell you come back in about a year and a half for an ACL injury. Tony came back in 6 months and faced Pettis and looked amazing. So let's cut the BS there. I think that Tony Ferguson, just gets guys into deep water, and that's his best thing. And I think that because it's not the prettiest thing, a lot of people like to do this thing with Tony where they're like, oh, technically this guy could beat him. Technically this guy could beat him. Technically this guy could beat him. And if you're an MMA fan, you'll know that a lot of people were doing that with Barbosa. The list goes on and on. So we gotta stop this. Alright, so that's the video, guys. Thank you. Please like, share, subscribe, do what you gotta do. We're trying to push to 1,000. And yeah, until next time, see you soon. Peace.